Thanks for staying tuned to the Game Changer, Providence Television International. And this is the interview segment on the Morning Drive. My name is Ugbebo Ikikwa, and with me right here in the studio is the Chairman, Chief Executive, Providence Television International, Dr. Emmanuel Igariba. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ikekwa. It's always a pleasure of mine to be here. And we thank our viewers all over the world for staying tuned to us. They now know that this is the Game Changer.
Exactly. Well, on the interview segment today, we'll be looking at improving power generation. What's your take on this? Can power generation be improved in this country with the way things are now?
Of course, yes. Why? The stealing of money, has it not improved? The sleaze in this country, it has improved. We are no longer talking about millions. Billions now are going into sleaze. And apparently, power generation is just is a minute thing compared to how much, has been sleazed in this country. So that's a different ball game altogether. But I think it's doable. I mean, obviously, there is no problem without a solution, and it's a technical thing.
Okay.
Yes, it's a technical thing, so why can't we have a solution to it? It's been with us for a long time. That's why I said, I think about 4 or 5 days ago, could it be jinxed?
Okay.
We're having to repeat that. Is it is jinxed? Because successive governments have always said the same thing, have always done the same thing. So where is the solution, for crying out loud? Where is the solution to our power problem? And besides, I was just ruminating this morning while I was preparing to come to the office. We have a situation on our hands that has become so ridiculous to the extent that many people are now beginning to think that we cannot possibly have a solution.
Exactly.
And we could have a solution. The danger in it, from what is happening in this country, is that we cannot really talk about industrialization. We cannot. Because it's a fallacy. On the one hand, you are talking about industrialization, manufacturing. On the other hand, you are talking about inadequate power supply. So there is a contradiction, total contradiction. And it just doesn't make sense. You cannot, no government in the world can talk about meaningful industrialization without power. What is it that you want to do or to produce without power? Yes, and that is why organizations like MAN, like Nasima, they are crying out every day. I don't want to mention the name. One of the telecom companies.
Yes.
If we are not careful, they will move out of this country.
Yes.
Yes, because they are saying that they cannot continue with this. They cannot.
Exactly.
Yes, they are cutting jobs, right? And they are saying that they want to increase their tariff, meaning that they cannot cope anymore.
Exactly.
I was to go on a platform, for instance, for terrestrial. I don't want to mention the name. And the people said, look, some of our stations are closing down in the States.
Yes.
Closing down because they cannot cope with diesel. That is how serious the problem has become. Yes, it's a very serious problem. And it's staring us in the face on a daily basis. So why can we not? That's the question everybody is asking. Why can we not have power? 24/7. I mentioned some countries in Africa, next door neighbor, Republic of Benin. Yes. Some of our boys and girls are there, just nearby. In Ghana, 247.
Yeah.
In South Africa, 247. Of course, you can't talk about Morocco and Algeria. Those ones, they are close to Europe. All right? So they are doing it right. A friend of mine, a classmate of mine, came from the U.S. some time ago, and he made a stopover in Morocco.
Okay.
He stayed 2 nights. Everything was working perfectly. Yes. And he was asking himself, is this country in Africa? Yes, he was asking himself. Yes. He traveled with his wife.
Okay.
And they were asking, can this truly be in Africa? And Nigeria should take the lead. That is why Obasanjo, for instance, was in pains a few days ago. The newspaper headlines said it very clearly. He was in pain. That's, look, Nigeria has disappointed the African continent. It has disappointed the black race and the world. The old man knew what he was talking about. Obasanjo is close to 90, so he must say it the way it is, right? Power is number one. And I also mentioned a few days ago that, look, if we get 3 things we must get right. Power, Maybe that should even be number one. Security. And then, of course, food. Once we get these three things right on the table, our boys will start running back home. Yes.
Okay, well, we'll see talking about improving power generation, we've seen the change in the name. We had at the time the ECN, and then it was NEPA, and then PHCN.
All sorts of names, where they coin at their leisure.
At their leisure,
at
exactly.
Their leisure. But it has not worked. Because I would have thought that with the change of name, there would be new emphasis on performance and credibility. But it's going down the line.
Exactly.
PSCI was even doing better than we have now.
Okay.
Yes. Even NEPA was doing better. I'm not even talking about ECN anyway, because I grew up in the ECN environment.
All right.
Yes, so that's what we had. And today, power source is being reduced to nothing. So much so that people, you want to use generator, it's not for you're going to use.
Exactly.
So that's where we are. If you are a manufacturing company, you can't rely on diesel. You cannot, because you will run down quicker than you think. So it is power. And I suggested a few days ago, two things we must do. We'll go the way of nuclear.
Okay.
Yes, it may be expensive, but compared to the kind of sleaze we have in this country, it is attainable. It is absolutely attainable. Let us prove for once that power is not jinxed in this country. Nuclear. And what is needed? What's the main thing in nuclear reactors? Uranium.
Okay.
We have uranium in this country. What is that mineral resource that Nigeria does not have? Tell me. What is the mineral resource that Nigeria does not possess? Uranium. That's what you need in nuclear reactors. And we have it. All our engineers should put their heads together. The Nigerian Society of Engineers should go inwards and tell government that they are capable of doing some of these things. Yes, and we have eggheads, by the way. Brilliant people in Nigerian Society of Engineers who can work and do it. That's number one. Number two, let us also build up the profile of, what do you call it now? What you use to receive sunlight.
Solar panels.
Solar panels.
Okay.
Our young people can be trained. Okay? Even in the production of batteries that you need for solar panels. We can do that in this country. What is our problem, for God's sake? Once you have that, then NEPA goes into oblivion. Total oblivion. I also likened it to the issue of a water supply.
Okay.
In those days, water board was all over the place. But suddenly it went off for whatever reason. And then, of course, we now have the upsurge of private boreholes. 80% of houses in the state now are boreholes. Yes. And people, as I said, for the sake of emphasis, people were trained in that field to handle the materials, to handle drilling. They have been trained. And they do it. If you want to have a bore in your house now, you're not going to call people from abroad. You're going to call people in the local environment. And they will come. They even fabricate their pipes. But it works. It works. It works perfectly. Fabricate their pipes, submersibles. I think they're even producing now somewhere. If they are not, I think they are being brought from outside the country. But then, the basic things are produced here. Those pipes that you see are produced here. So that's a wealth. But thirdly, as I also said elsewhere, our universities, their faculties of engineering must be on top of the game, particularly electrical engineering. All right. Universities, through the federal government aiding the universities, should give grants.
Okay.
Let them do research into how power can be generated on our campuses.
Okay.
Yes, because we talk about town and gown, for instance, as far as universities are concerned. Town and gown. Town meaning that it's a community on its own. And gown means, of course, academic prowess. Universities are set up for two things, learning and research. The learning aspect, yes, we can talk about that. But what of research?
Okay.
Research grants should be given. Yes, on a regular basis. There are many of our professors who are wasting away in the university. No grants. In the last 5 years, no grants. And yet, they must defend their professorial chair by way of research. How can you go through that system without performing one thing in a year? As I said before, I look forward to a time when the university, or all the universities, as a matter of fact, will come out with one successful research discovery.
Okay.
Yes, at least one. I'm not talking of two, I'm not talking of three. Yes.
Well,
So that's the way it is. And I'm sure that once you take this load, university system, for instance, I mean, look at the big universities, the first generation universities. They are cities on their own.
exactly.
Nsukka is there, Ibadan is there, huge. Ahmadu Bello University, all right. Ife is there, University of Benin is there, Ilorin is there, Calabar is there. These are huge communities, huge. They consume a lot of electricity. And if we can do research as to how they can be enabled to provide electricity for individual universities, yes, why not? Why not?
Okay.
Yes.
And then,
After all, let me tell you this. Ekpoma here, Ekpoma, I don't know if he's still working because I did a documentary on the place some time ago.
okay.
And the vice chancellor then told me that they have their own private power supply.
Okay.
Sorry, not power, water supply.
Water supply.
Yes. I think it was a little dam or something.
Okay.
They could supply water to the community. That's a takeoff point. Small university like Akpoma, not even talking of the big universities like Uniben, UI, and the rest. So we must go into research. One day we'll talk about the role of the university system in terms of development of the nation.
Okay.
Yes.
Definitely.
Well, yes. Look at, just to digress a little bit, in pharmacy, for instance, I told you the other day, there's a course called pharmacognosis. It goes into plants, the efficacy of plants, what's involved in those plants that can help us in terms of healthcare delivery. Pharmacognosis. Pharmacists listening to me now will know what I'm talking about. Okay? It's a core thing in pharmacy, meaning that you have to go into herbs to know their efficacy and study them properly. Yes. To know their efficacy and to know what they can do for healthcare delivery. If you go to Ondo State, I mentioned it the other day, in Ondo State you have forests.
Yeah.
Yes, huge forest resources. Smiling and laughing on the basis of what they contain. Plants, herbs. Those are the things we use for medicine or drugs,
Number of
as
drugs.
it were. I'm not talking of synthetic drugs. I'm talking of natural herbs. Those
Yeah.
are the things we use. Yes. So, as far as electricity is concerned, our universities can do the same.
Okay.
And they can connect with their alumni associations. They can have foundations for this. Nobody's going to accuse them. It's thinking out of the box.
So it should be a collective thing.
It
That's what
should
you're
be a
saying. It shouldn't
collective
be the total reserve of the federal government.
No, it shouldn't be. I mean, there are many stakeholders in any university. Alumni associations are there, you know. Honorary awardees,
Awardees, yes.
they are there. Some of them are billionaires. They come, you decorate them and give them honorary awards and things. They can plow their money back into the system. Okay? So that's where we are. And again, don't forget that some of these universities, I know of University of Benin, for instance. I mean, I'm an alumnus of University of Benin, and I know what I'm saying. That the University of Benin has tentacles with some foreign universities. Yes, strong tentacles. And some of these universities, sooner rather than later, they also become stakeholders in the university by way of research.
Yes.
Yes, and they help you because you are in the third world. They help you. They are willing to help you. Yes, they still give grants so that your lecturers can go on sabbatical and do research programs. Yes, that's it. That's the truth.
Okay. Well, just on the last note, we've always had power distribution, independent power distributors in this country, but we never had independent power generation. The national grid collapsed like about 3 times just within a period of like 5 days.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What would you postulate? Would you be in agreement? Because some other individuals have postulated that we should have independent power generators.
First of all, you must decentralize completely. What happens elsewhere? I mean, if you take the whole of Benin, for instance, you can divide Benin into about 4 or 5 zones.
Okay.
Yes, each one independent. Okay. Now, the power thing we are talking about, you're talking about generation. You are talking about distribution. You are talking about transmission.
Transmission, exactly.
Yeah. These are the 3 main components. Distribution, Production. And that's
Production.
from the source. All right. Distribution and transmission. But they have politicized the whole thing so badly. Yes, good idea. Why can't we have independent power facilities? It is doable. Edo State has been having one. I don't know how far that is gone now. But even individuals can be encouraged to develop this potential for a small axis.
Like these are axis here.
Yes, that's what happens even in England. So if you are not, I mean, it's like the telecoms, for instance. When we started, to buy a SIM was about 13,000. I bought mine for about 13,000 long time ago. The first set of the SIM that I used, 13,000. Now they almost give you for free because there's competition. Now when you throw it open and you allow private individuals to come in, it's a major enterprise for them, and they would like to invest in it. Give them some small axis. Yes. Say, we're talking from Benin now, say the whole of First Circular up to New Benin is controlled by one person or one company. You divide into zones. If you are not satisfied with one, go back to go and connect with the other one nearby. So they will sit up.
Exactly.
That's what happens outside this country. So there's serious competition. Yes. And there will be less pressure on the central facility. Because right now, NEPA to me is biting more than it can chew. First of all, the facilities are obsolete, terribly obsolete. Go to the transmission station on Sapele Road. You will see, if you go closer, you will see some ECN. They're still there, ECN. In the 21st century, ECN. And if you must improve on what you are doing, for goodness sake, you must improve on the facilities that you have.
Exactly.
Well, old wine in new bottles.
Exactly. It's become quite regular with me to say that anytime I'm with Dr. Emmanuel Egariba, I find it very difficult to want to end the program, but then we have other programs lined up for your viewing delight. And so, with this, we've come to the end of the interview segment on the Morning Drive Providence Television International. But just before we go, as usual, Dr. Emmanuel Egariba always has something to leave us with.
Well, I keep saying this. In Edo State, for instance, we have the tribunal coming up for the election that we had in September. A watershed event for the judiciary. Yes. Is going to determine whether they are upright or not. That tribunal will determine whether the judiciary is upright or not. People are looking up to it. Okay? And for INEC, Ondo is around the corner. There have been a few things, if you read the newspapers very carefully, a few things that people have been saying. Let Ondo not take us back to 1983, when we had a major uprising. Okay? When Amobori had to run away from Ondo State to Lagos. The same Ondo State is coming in November. I'm not a prophet of doom, but INEC should be careful. They should be careful so that the whole thing should go on seamlessly. Seamlessly. That's what we expect of an umpire, right? So, best wishes.
All right. On this note, I want to say thank you so much for staying tuned. The next program will be coming up soon. Don't go away.